my friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chelsea and today we are going to be talking about all the books that are currently on my Kindle Unlimited TBR. So like many others, I did get a new Kindle for Christmas. At first I thought it was a little bit of a splurge purchase for me as my other Kindle was working just fine, but it was like 7 or 8 years old and I just felt like it was time to get a new one. And lucky I did, because in the month of December, that Kindle died. A very sad death. And I'm so happy to announce that I got the Kindle Paperwhite 12th generation and I'm obsessed with it. It's so fast. When you don't get a new electronic product for several years and then you get the newest one, you're like, where have I been living my whole life? Have I been living in the dark ages? This is kind of how it felt. So happy I have the new Kindle. I got this cutie cover from Paige, the shop. I will link the Instagram down below in case you're interested. This is like the limited edition Taylor Swift case, but she has some of the best cases I have seen out there. Go ahead and check out her shop in case you're looking for a new Kindle cover. Because I got a new Kindle, all I want to do is read on my Kindle, so I thought we could talk through my KU TBR because there are so many books on this list that I'm excited to read, and I'm gonna be honest, there's like over 30 books on this list. I've kind of broken them out in category. We have fantasy romance / romantasy, we have regular fantasy, we have romance, and then we have some dark romances. So let's go ahead and jump into our list. First up, we have Neverkeep by the Twisted Sisters. This is set in the Zodiac Academy world. This is a dark enemies to lovers romantasy. I'm thinking like knife to throat. They're actually going to hate each other. The tagline for this book says, "The dragons are lost, the elements are at war, enlisting isn't optional, and I'm falling for a man who wants me dead." Yes, please. I am going to be buddy reading Neverkeep with some friends in February, and I'm very excited to pick this one up. Next up, we have Filthy Rich Fae by Geneva Lee. I really know not a lot about this book, but my friends told me I had to read it, so I added it to the list. It's giving enemies to lovers, dark crime family. Obviously, they are fae. There's probably some ruthless MMC involved in this book. It's set in New Orleans, which always gives like a kind of darker, magical vibe, I think. So I'm really excited to pick this one up. Next up is Born in Fire by K.F. Breen. This is the first book in the Demon Days Vampire Night series. It's kind of giving me Patricia Briggs vibes if you've read any of her books, but I'm kind of feeling like supernatural, probably a murder mystery kind of story, and we've obviously got a romance. I believe that this spans over several books, and one of my friends has been raving about this series to me, so it's time I finally pick this one up. Next, we have A Kiss of Iron by Claire Sager. This is the first book in the Shadows of the Tenebris Court series, and this is also giving romantasy vibes. I think it's a little bit more of like a Regency, so we've got some balls, we've got Bridgerton meets the Bridge Kingdom vibes, and I'm definitely into both of that. I don't love historical romance, but I feel like if you add a fantasy element to this story, I might really enjoy it. Next, we have Metal Slinger by Rachel Schneider. This was everywhere at the end of 2024, and I'm a little bit on the fence about this one, to be honest, but I put it on this list because I am determined to give it a shot. I don't always love the romantasy books that kind of like blow up in the indie romantasy world. They're just not my favorites, but I at least want to give this a shot because I can't help it. Like, I have to at least try, you know, I have to at least try. Then we have A Songbird and the Heart of Stone by Carissa Broadbent. This is book 3 in the Crowns of Nyaxia series. This book does follow one of the characters from books 1 and 2, but it's a different main couple, which I'm kind of excited about because I didn't like love our main couple from books 1 and 2, and I'm hoping that the MMC in books 3 and 4 is going to be for me, so fingers crossed on that. I haven't heard like the most amazing reviews about this book, but I want to give it a shot because I do like this series. I like Carissa Broadbent's writing, and I do want to finish out the series, so in order to do that, I have to pick up book 3. Then we have The Wolf King by Lauren Palfreyman, and this one is a little bit of a wild card for me. I don't know if I got this recommendation from somewhere or if I just saw it on Kindle, but the tagline says, "When a princess is kidnapped by an alpha, war rages between the humans and the wolves, but soon forbidden attraction starts to grow." Yes, yes please, thank you very much. Then we have Peaches and Honey by R. Rada. This is the first book in a duology, and I've heard it gives Addie LaRue vibes. That book broke me. I'm so excited to pick this up. This one is actually on my winter TBR, so hopefully I'll be picking up this book in February, but I'm ready to cry, I'm ready to be heartbroken, I'm ready to be put back together, and I think that this book is going to do all those things for me. Next we have A Tribute of Fire by Soraya Wilson. This is giving like Hunger Games-ish vibes with like a maze. The tagline is, "The fate of a cursed nation depends on a princess who must outwit a mortal enemy and outlast the trials of a death-defying ritual in a thrilling adventure." I don't know why, but this book is just like calling to me, and I feel like this is more of a newer release. I haven't seen it talked about a ton, but I think it came out fairly recently. It is quite long. It's over 500 pages, as are most of the romantasy books on this list, but I do have really high hopes that this book is going to hit for me. Next up is The Games Gods Play by Abigail Owen. I do own the physical copy of this book as well, because how can you not? The copy is so stunning. But we've got gods, we've got Hades as a possible romantic interest. Yes, please. We've got a game of sorts where our gods have chosen humans to fight against each other as their tributes. Like, this book just screams me, and I hope that I actually love it, because if I don't, I think I'll be really sad, but this book seems like it's just up my alley. We also have A House of Bane and Blood, and this book is by Alexis Menard. I have heard nothing but rave reviews about this book. I think it's a duology. It's giving marriage of convenience. We've got like a steampunk aspect to this, which I don't always love, but after hearing so many people rave about this book, I at least want to give it a shot, because I feel like the romance might just be it for me. Next up, we have The Coven of Ruin by T.K. Tucker, and the tagline says, "The merciless god of war, a healer witch, and that meddlesome thing known as fate." I love fate. I love a god. I love a god romance. This is kind of like a Greco-Roman myth-inspired romantasy, and I'm so into that, so I can't wait to pick this one up. And I believe that this is the first in a trilogy, but I think that this might be the only book that's currently out. Next we have Zodiac Academy Heartless Sky, again by the Twisted Sisters. I have yet to finish Zodiac Academy, and I know I'm not going to finish it before I pick up their new series, but that's okay. I put this series down a couple of years ago because I felt like it was so long. I binged the first 6 books like in a month, like so fast, and then I think I just got burnt out on it. So I still need to finish the last 3 books, I think. So I'm putting the book that I'm currently in the middle of on this list to hold myself accountable to actually finish the series. The last 2 in the romantasy category are both sequels as well. First up, we have The Shards of Ophelia by Nicole Platania. And this is the second book in the Curse of Ophelia series. The first book follows Ophelia, and she is cursed, and she has to go on a quest to both find out the truth about her childhood lover, as well as try to figure out a way to break the curse. And this book follows the fallout of book 1. I have had this book on my list for so long, and I believe the series is now completed, or the last book is about to come out. So this is the perfect time for me to pick up this series and finish it out. And last but not least, for the fantasy romance category, we have The City of Souls and Sinners by Kayla Edwards. This is the sequel to City of Gods and Monsters, and this is an urban fantasy romance book. It's giving House of Earth and Blood, like Crescent City vibes, and there's also like a murder mystery in this story as well, just like House of Earth and Blood. If you don't know, House of Earth and Blood, Crescent City 1, is my favorite Sarah J. Maas book ever written. Like, I love urban fantasy, and I read City of Gods and Monsters like 4 years ago, I want to say, and I liked it, but I didn't love it. But it's kind of getting a resurgence right now, and I want to give it another shot. So I might reread City of Gods and Monsters before picking up City of Souls and Sinners, because I feel like if I read it at the right time, I might end up really loving it. So this one's gonna get another shot from me. All right, that is the end of the fantasy romance category. Next up, we have just plain fantasy. There's only 3 books on this list, but first up, we have The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I don't think I need to tell you anything about this book. This is like one of the most beloved fantasy trilogies I've ever heard of, and it's just time for me to read it. So this is the year I'm going to read The Poppy War. Next up on this list, we have Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. I'm actually currently reading this book, and I love that it's on KU because it's so freaking long. It's like 750 pages or something, and it's so good, but it's dark, it's heartbreaking, and it's so good. So please go read this book if you haven't read it. Last but not least on this list is We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal. I've heard about this book in the past, but it really came to my attention because of the author's newest release, A Tempest of Tea, and all the rave reviews that were coming out about that book. So I decided to check out the backlist, and I'm really curious about this one. It kind of feels like maybe it might be Ember and the Ashes-ish. That might be totally wrong. I don't know. It's the first in a duology, and it's inspired by ancient Arabia. It just feels like a book that I'm going to love. The third category on this list is romance books, and I've got quite a few, to be honest. First up, we have Fragile Sanctuary by Catherine Cowles. I'm currently reading her entire backlist, and I'm very excited about this one. Her books are mostly romantic suspense. I believe this series is no different. They're usually small town. They're usually some sort of like family series or a group of friends, and each friend gets a book or something like that, and I'm assuming that this book is no different, but I'm putting it on because it's the next series of hers that I would like to read. Then we have Cry About It by Maggie Gates. I know nothing about this book except it's an enemies to lovers romance, and the cover is really interesting to me. It like gives you nothing, but I kind of love that, and I forgot that this book was on my list, but I recently saw it on a saved post that I had on Instagram, and I was like, ooh, I kind of want to check that book out again. I'm hoping it's a little angsty. We shall see. I'm obsessed with this cover, so I kind of want to give it a shot. Then we have Only in Your Dreams by Madison Wright. I really enjoy Madison Wright's writing. It's very easy to read. It's straightforward. You kind of get lost in the story a little bit, and I just love her little small towns. I feel like she has some really cute little details. I believe that this one is a brother's best friend romance set in a small town, which is one of my favorite tropes, so I cannot wait to read this one. And it just like screams spring to me, so I'll probably be picking this up in the spring. Next we have False God by C.W. Farnsworth. This is book 3 in the Kensington series. This is a billionaire romance, and it's also second generation, so our FMC is the daughter of the couple from book 1 in the Kensington series, which is Fake Empire. I cannot wait to read this book. I'm so excited. I love Fake Empire so much, and I'm really hoping that this lives up to the vibes for me because I DNF'd book 2 in this series, and I really want to love this book. Next we have Full Tilt by Emma Scott. This is the first book in a duology, and I believe it's like an angsty romance, which I'm so here for. The tagline says, "Full Tilt is a story about what it means to love with your whole heart, to sacrifice, to experience terrible grief and soaring joy, to live life with all its beauty and all its pain, and in the end to be able to smile through tears and know you wouldn't have changed a thing." Just break my heart, why don't you? This is going to break me. I'm ready for it. Next up we have Unsteady by Peyton Corinne, and I believe this is a hockey figure skating romance. I think it's a little bit angsty, it's a little bit more emotional. I think this kind of blew up on TikTok, but if you say a romance is emotional, I'm gonna pick it up. So immediately add to the TBR. Next up, we have Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I am probably one of the last people standing who has not read this trilogy, but it's been on my TBR forever, like since the book came out. My biggest qualm with this series is that each book is like 600 pages long, and that's just how Lucy Score writes, but I'm just it's not my thing. So I'm really gonna have to push through to read this one, but I put it on this list because I do want to give it a shot. I do enjoy Lucy Score's writing. It's got small town vibes like we know Lucy Score can write, and I think I'll love it if I give it a shot, but it just scares me that it's like 600 pages long. That's my only qualm. If you have read this and you think it's worth it, let me know in the comments down below so I can push myself to actually pick this one up. Next we have Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer. This is a grumpy sunshine hockey romance, and I believe that they knew each other in high school, I want to say, and now she's working for him in some capacity, and I just love those combinations. Like, they've got a past, they're close proximity now, the difference in their personalities, like, this should be a win for me. I've jumped back into contemporary romance more recently these days. I took a little bit of a break for a while, but I feel like now is the time to pick a book like this up, so I'm hoping that I will love this one. And last but certainly not least, in the romance category, we have Steel King by Devney Perry. I keep giving Devney Perry a shot, and I just want to give her one more in this series. This is the first book in the Clifton Forge series. I have not loved every book that Devney Perry writes. I have really enjoyed several of her books, and then I have not really enjoyed several of her books, so it's a little bit of a hit or miss for me, but I'm hoping that this one will hit because I think it's a little bit darker. I think this one surrounds a small town motorcycle club, and this particular book has small town enemies to lovers vibes, and I love the idea of like a little bit grittier, a little bit darker, and this one has been on my list for a long time, and I'm ready to give it a shot. And if I don't love this series, then I'm probably gonna say I'm done with Devney Perry as a whole. All right, the rest of the books on this list are dark romance, and I'm gonna quickly go through them because I feel like so many of them are very similar. But first up is The Emperor by Runix. This is book 3 in the Darkverse series, and I read books 1 and 2 a couple of years ago and really enjoyed them, and I just never continued the series. And I do feel like it might be because the two main characters in book 3 are different than the main characters in books 1 and 2, but I at least want to give it a shot to see if this is a series I want to continue. Then we have God of Malice by Rena Kent. I have heard of this book in the past, but I feel like it's been getting some more traction recently, so I added it to the list. It might be time to check out Rena Kent for me. This would be my first book by her, but I don't know, I'm a little curious about it. Then we have The Ritual by Chantal Tessier. This one has also been on my list for quite a while. This is giving dark college romance vibes. I think it's got like a secret society in it, probably got some rich boys, like I'm into that. All the books on this list, I'm just gonna give it a shot, and if I don't like it, it's fine, but I at least want to try these books. Then we have Hideaway by Penelope Douglas. This is the second book in the Corrupt series, I think is what it's called. I read book 1, Corrupt, a couple of years ago, and it was a wild time. But I'm kind of curious to see what happens in the next books. Each book follows one of the men in this friend group, and they're a little bit dark. They've just come out of prison. There's a lot of things going on. And last but not least on this list is Nightshade by Carrie Lake. I haven't read anything by Carrie Lake, but I feel like I want to try it out. This is a dark paranormal gothic romance. I think the cover is super cool. I love the concept of this book. Again, this might not be for me, but I at least want to give it a shot because I'm ready to kind of stretch myself a little bit this year. There were so many books in the last year or two that I've read that I just like thought I would like because of my previous tastes in books, and they just fell a little flat for me. So this year I'm trying to stretch myself a little bit, try some new books, see what I like, see what I don't like. So that is the end of my Kindle Unlimited TBR. We have 32 books on our KU TBR, and to be honest, this list keeps growing, so I might have to update this list halfway through the year, and hopefully by then I will have read some of these books. Let me know in the comments down below if there's a book that I listed that you think I should push to the top of my TBR, or if there's a book on this list that you also want to read that we could buddy read together, because I love a good buddy read. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a marvelous day, and I will catch you in the next one soon.